1015 FM, 720 AM. KDWN, the talk of Las Vegas.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Las Vegas. This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. 1 full hour of wrestling news, entertainment, and lots of Sin City surprises from inside the squared circle. Now, let's bring on the tag team of Andrew Fish Fain, Joe DeFalco, and your host, Mark Hoke.
My name is Mark Hoke. I drive a mean forklift, and I am a sports entertainer. That's me. What's up, everybody? How we doing? Fish. Come back to me, Fish.
I'm here.
Fish.
I'm not going anywhere.
Fish. I gotta cast the rod. What do we need to do?
Nothing. You're
I got
good.
$1.
We're all good.
Oh, my God. Welcome to the Mark Hoke Show, #1 pro wrestling show on the planet. Yeah, Fish, you may not be able to look that way. You're not used to this because usually when you do SportsX Radio on Monday nights at 8 p.m. here on KDWN 1015 FM 720 AM, you're here in the dark. But there's light coming in this one window, and there's a shade there. But Fish is staring into the light. Fish, don't go to the light. Don't do it.
You
Fish,
never know.
Come back.
The right things are going, maybe the way to go.
You poor guy. With Andrew Fish Fain in here, and of course, the sleepy one. I got to give him a tiny bit of flack. Joe DeFalco, a future Stars of Wrestling here in Las Vegas, the Lord and Overmaster of that amazing promotion and training academy. Wait, are you snoring over there? No, okay. Joe, what's up?
I don't know. It sounds like Fish is having a bad March Madness to start.
No, I'm all good, Joe. It's good to hear your voice, man.
It's good to be awake. Well, man, last week I slept the whole way through.
Yeah, what happened to you?
Man.
We missed you.
I get up till like 11 o'clock.
Yeah, fair enough. All right.
I don't sleep much, so,
That's it. The man needed his rest.
Hey, sometimes the body shuts down. It's all good. Yeah. What a...
Getting ready for AEW weekend, man. We got some big announcements.
Yeah, so I heard, and we'll get to talk about that at some point during this, by the way, special 90-minute edition.
I'm looking forward to delving into the big announcements for future Stars of Wrestling.
Yeah, it's just it is going to be a heavy delve. A lot of delving going on this week, I think.
Apparently.
Yeah. I got to tell you what happened. So of course, Fish is not the biggest AEW fan, and I told him about the Jericho Appreciation Society promo, and that everybody apparently loved, but Fish is just kind of sitting there like, yeah, whatever.
It was just the typical Chris Jericho promo.
All right, fair enough. Well, we'll talk about it in a little bit. I did want to kick off the show because amazingly enough, we literally missed the story by 3 hours,
if that.
Of course, of Scott Hall having the 3 heart attacks. And
Well, did you hear the whole story that he was passed out in his house for 3 days before somebody found him?
Now that I did not hear.
Yeah, he was passed out in his house for 3 days before they finally sent Diamond Dallas Page over to do a wellness check because no one had heard from him, and Diamond Dallas Page had found him, and then got him to the hospital.
Wow. So, but of course, then Scott Hall was on life support and passed away. So the former member of the NWO and Razor Ramon has died. And
what was kind of cool was they were like tributes without being tributes to him throughout the entire show, like on Monday Night Raw, because like Kevin Owens started his promo by going, "Hey yo," and then he just kept going, but he didn't make a big deal about it. He just said it and then kept going, sort of paying homage to Scott Hall and Razor Ramon.
Well, there was an interesting video that popped up of Kevin Owens because it literally just happened when they started doing Raw and he was in the ring and they put the tribute up, and there was video of Owens saying, "This just happened. Why are they doing this?"
Which is funny because when the show came on Monday, the tribute came probably 2/3 of the way through the show. They didn't play it at the very beginning. They did the picture of Scott Hall and the roster on the stage, but they didn't play the tribute, and you could tell it was cut together. So they edited it, at least for the West Coast, so that the tribute played in the middle of the show, not at the very beginning of the show.
Yeah, it was pretty fast. But if you look back on the career of Scott Hall, of course, we all know about the demons that he had with alcohol and drugs and so on. But I did see, and I can't remember who put the tweet out that said Scott Hall was the most influential wrestler that never won a major world title. And I was kind of thinking about that for a while, and whoever said that might be right. When you think about, because we all grew up, as we were getting, I guess we would have been in about our 30s-ish when Razor Ramon hit. All of us were running around saying, say hello to the bad guy, and doing the walk and flicking the toothpick at people and hey yo, we were all doing it. Don't say you didn't. And DeFalco, I know you did too. It was such a fun character, but he was the bad guy, but everybody got a kick out of him.
But even more than that, it was, because to be honest with you, if that was the end of his legacy, he would have gone down as a great wrestler with a good legacy. But it was the outsider's angle for NWO that made him from what he was to the next stratosphere.
To me, the biggest memory that I have of Scott Hall, it's most vivid, was the day that he walked on WCW TV and, was announced, said he was here and my friends are coming and started the whole thing. And, I'll just never forget that because it was just such a pivotal moment in wrestling history.
And the part to me that sticks with it is his first line is just, "You know who I am."
Yeah, and and of course the NWO is what is. I just recently bought another NWO T-shirt, and it's been God knows how long now. The legacy of Scott Hall is never going to be forgotten in the sport, in the industry. He just and so many people love the guy, and the influence that he had was absolutely amazing.
Is it fair to say that had there not been a Scott Hall, there wouldn't be a Stone Cold Steve Austin? Because the reason that character was created was because of the Monday Night Wars and WWE losing the Monday Night Wars to WCW. So WWE had to up their game, and guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock were brought to the forefront. Rocky Maivia may have been there, and Steve Williams or Stunning Steve or the Ringmaster or whatever you wanted to call him may have been there. But those characters became those characters because of how good WCW was doing in the ratings.
It certainly pushed them. Of course, the Stone Cold Steve Austin thing was somewhat of an accident.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
It just came off as a promo at the King of the Ring, and all of a sudden, kaboom. Joe, let me get you here. I know we're monopolizing the conversation a little bit. Joe, your thoughts on Scott Hall and his legacy in professional wrestling?
Well, in all honesty, I don't think there would have been a legacy unless he did go to WCW. That changed the landscape of wrestling. It also instituted, more importantly, the guaranteed contracts that these guys were getting.
That's a good
point.
And
it really helped, make a lot of people a lot of money. And I think in the wrestling business, that's where, guys like Hall and Nash, come to the forefront. It's not what they did in the ring. It's how they were able to now up the ante. It's kind of like AEW. If you like them or don't like them, the fact of the matter is now there's so many more people who are in the wrestling business that have now have a great lifestyle. Because in the past, even back then, it was the same way. If you didn't work for WWF, you weren't making money because of New Japan or Ring of Honor. WCW, they were big in the South. And, Ric Flair was making his money in probably the Four Horsemen and stuff. But once Hall and Nash went over, that's when the floodgates opened. And now Vince was forced to do something he had never done before. And that was like, well, if you're working the show or not, you're still getting paid. And I think that's the biggest legacy, that Scott Hall and I, obviously since Kevin Nash went with him, but that was the thing that really changed everything in professional wrestling. And then on top of that, it's these guys came in, and you got to understand it did take a long while before WCW finally eclipsed, WWE, which had been coming off, more of their cartoon characters that, in some cases were horrendous. And that's also when the realism in professional wrestling with characters and promos, took the forefront.
Is it fair to say that that Scott Hall is analogous to Curt Flood in baseball, because he was the first Curt Flood being the first free agent, sort of, and Scott Hall may not have been the first free agent, but as you said, he was the first one to make sure they were guaranteed contracts. He basically paved the way for wrestlers to be able to live the lifestyles they live today.
Yeah, obviously you got to include Nash because they both came in, pretty much together, but without a doubt, I'm pretty sure Vince never thought in his right mind that, Diesel and Razor Ramon were going to be leaving. And, when they showed up on TV, because I remember there was lawsuits about the likenesses, and then the WWF made the horrendous idea of putting
the fake
Diesel, yeah.
That they had Diesel and Razor Ramon, and WCW was so nervous that they were going to go back there that they gave them more money on their contracts twice because they thought they were the Diesel and Razor Ramon. And they were like, oh, here's some more money. And it was, here's some more money. So I heard they got paid on top of their original contracts. They got renegotiated 2 different times because they were afraid that they were going to just go back. Because, again, back in the day, it was a lot of times people worked without a contract. It didn't matter. That's why Lex Luger showed up in the mall in Minneapolis when everybody was like, holy crap, Lex Luger's here. They all still thought he was part of WWF.
Yeah, and some other things on Scott Hall, too, of course, had some other iconic moments like the curtain call, which when you think about that moment, that changed wrestling considerably, too, because it pretty much destroyed kayfabe at that point.
But it also changed things because Triple H was supposed to win their King of the Ring the year that Stone Cold won it and became Stone Cold.
It did change a lot of things, but but to me the biggest impact of that was, what, these guys are friends? We thought they all hated each other, and it really changed the perception of what wrestlers are doing and their characters and how they were. Just how they behaved. It really was a massive moment.
And it's hard to fathom nowadays, but back then the internet wasn't the internet like it is now.
Right.
So we didn't have the information that we have now. So it was the fact, you're right, that made it even more shocking because, Hall and Nash wouldn't have been able to do what they did then now. Because
and if it wasn't for that angle, you wouldn't have gotten Fish's favorite moment in wrestling history, the hog pen match between Henry Godwinn and Triple H. So
he thinks, and the funny part is that he thinks he's so clever because he brought that up. I was there. I saw that match at the Hershey Park Arena. I was behind it when Triple H got flipped into the hog pen.
Oh, good Lord.
I saw that.
Henry O. Godwinn.
Oh, my God. Boy, there's a memory for you. But by the way, for those that don't know about the curtain call, there was a steel cage match with Triple H, Hall and Nash, and Shawn Michaels. And at the end of the match, because Hall and Nash were leaving, they all, gave the click salute and, saluted the fans and everything.
And hugged.
And hugged. They weren't supposed to be friends. And so everybody went crazy. Oh, you broke character out in front of a sold-out Madison Square Garden. And, of course, Hall and Nash had hit the road, so they weren't getting in trouble. Shawn Michaels was the golden boy and the world champion, so he wasn't getting in trouble. So future son-in-law.
Yeah, so like I said, Triple H was supposed to win the 96 King of the Ring, and his punishment, he didn't win it. Steve Austin won it instead, and it had the famous line about, you could talk about your John 16. Well, Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your ass.
Yep, and Triple H got sent to the hog pen. It's pretty funny. But, Scott Hall certainly will be a presence that is going to be missed, and one of those guys that I don't think anybody's ever going to forget. And it's funny that I even remember Scott Hall, when he first got started. I remember seeing the first time when he was on TV in the NWA when he was in the American
Diamond Stud.
No, he was there before that as the American Starship with Danny Spivey. When they,
I remember him in the AWA,
and then he went to the AWA when he teamed up with Kurt Hennig and they won the tag titles. And I was just when I was putting all this together real quick, I did not know this, that Vern Gagne wanted to put the belt on him, because I know he challenged for the title a few times. I did remember that, but apparently Gagne wanted to put the title on him, and Hall was kind of looking around and saying things are kind of falling apart around here. I'm hopping ship, and that was when he went back to the NWA.
Does that mean, is there a wrestler with a legacy that is more forgotten but more important than Dan Spivey? He teamed with Scott Hall. He teamed with The Undertaker before he was Undertaker, because he was Dangerous Dan and Mean Mark.
Yeah. And
he was also Waylon Mercy, which was the precursor to Bray Wyatt. I mean,
he did team with Sid Vicious too.
Okay, so 1 out of 4 ain't bad, but I mean, Dan Spivey's like the most forgotten man in history that's done so much, or been with so many other people, and been that influential with them.
That is a pretty amazing parallel. I will give you bonus points for that one, sir. Very nice, but yeah, and they were trying to make Scott Hall into the next Magnum TA in the AWA.
Well, he had that mustache.
People don't remember what he looked like before the Razor Ramon era. He looked like the Marlboro Man with a little bit of curly hair. I mean, the handsome guy. He had the
big,
hairy
thick
chest
mustache
and the mustache, the whole thing.
He was that's a very good. I didn't realize that, but he absolutely a Magnum TA look.
Yeah. So the dude.
It's funny. I remember him as Scott Hall, and then there was the Diamond Stud, and I never put 2 and 2 together for a long time.
Yeah, me either.
And then it was the same thing with Razor Ramon. It was like he was able to, a guy 6'6", 280 pounds, that he was able to adjust the way he looked to not be aware of it. The only other time I was like that surprised was when I realized that Dustin Rhodes was Goldust. That I was like, wait a second. That's Dustin Rhodes. Like, oh, holy crap, I didn't know that. And, and again, the thing when you're talking about with Hall and Nash at the Madison Square Garden, it would have been huge if it happened when the internet was popping. Like, it took a while for that to spread out, and it became, a legendary story. But it would have been so much bigger if it happened, in 2005, when everything was on the internet.
Right.
Like, oh my God, we can't believe what they did. So that was kind of like that under the radar thing. And I think that's how they probably looked at it. It's like, well, the couple of people pick up on it or whatever, but it's relatively just going to be, it was a house show.
And
one fan videoed that.
Is it fair to say that we wouldn't have things like Money in the Bank had it not been for the Razor Ramon Shawn Michaels ladder match at WrestleMania 7, which was
still one
of the greatest matches of all time?
Yeah.
Who knew that everything evolved? From what I understand, that was the first really. I don't even know. Was it the first ladder match? The first?
I don't think it was the first one, but it was
It was the first one at WrestleMania, obviously.
Yeah, I know there was one before that, if I remember correctly. But it was
it was
the one that caught everybody's attention.
Exactly. And had that not taken off the way it did, we may not have some of the, like I said, we may not have the Money in the Bank ladder match now, because the ladder match may not have taken off.
Yeah, and.
Similar to the success of the kennel in a cage match. Like, I can't believe that was a yearly paper.
Or what was the match when Dustin Rhodes fought in the back of a trailer, the King of the Road match?
Bunkhouse Brawl.
The Bunkhouse Brawl, yeah.
But he did one, I think, before, because he ended up doing the Hollywood one with Roddy Piper, but he did one in WCW that was really bad. It was with, like, Big Bully Busick or something.
Yes, I remember that horrendous match. Yeah, that was not good. But, of course.
Thank God that didn't stick.
Yeah, well, thank God nobody got stuck.
That's my big announcement. I'm going to bring it back AEW weekend.
God, that would be. I'll ref it, Joe.
I'll drive the truck.
If he's driving the truck, I'm not reffing. And of course, Scott Hall was in the ring for the creation of the NWO, one of the most iconic moments in wrestling history as well, where. Of course,
where Hogan dropped the leg.
He and Nash.
I remember watching that live. That was an amazing moment.
We all remember that.
Is he the third man? He's the third man.
And everybody going crazy and the trash.
And Tony Schiavone's going, "Shut up, Bobby."
I mean, it was just it was absolutely incredible, and it's amazing the more that we dig into the career of Scott Hall, just
how many iconic moments there truly are.
That he would, that he was involved in, just the reach that he had, and man, a talent like that's going to be sorely missed, and we will never see another guy like that again.
Agreed.
Yeah, and it was good that for the most part he cleaned up his life. I read that he did have some alcohol issues towards the end again.
Well, because of COVID, he was stuck in isolation, and apparently that was a big issue for him.
Right. But, of course, went back, cleaned his life, hung out with DDP. And
him and Jake the Snake, right, with DDP.
Yeah. So, Scott, we're going to miss you, buddy.
Are we going to have any Joe DeFalco yoga? We have Diamond Dallas Page yoga.
Joe, have you ever done yoga? I have.
One of my wrestlers is a yoga guy, but I've never partake. Unless you could, they should have one like the yoga casino while you're playing video poker. You could do yoga. That might be.
You have to sit in the full lotus position while you're playing. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds like a plan. Oh, God, where this show goes sometime.
Downward spiral red dog.
I don't know why that cracked me up so bad. Of course, I'm Mark Hoke here on the Mark Hoke Show on KDWN 101.5 FM, 720 AM. We certainly do appreciate all of you listening. Of course, Joe DeFalco from Future Stars of Wrestling here in Las Vegas. Go to fswvegas.com. Check everything out he's going on. And your Fish Fain. Of course, you can follow him on Twitter at thefish1969. You'll get to hear him with Chips on SportsX Radio on Monday night.
Is it called Fish and Chips?
Yes.
It is.
Oh.
They call me Malt Vinegar.
I thought I was like giving you an exclusive name right there. I'm like, wait a second.
No, Joe, you don't have every good idea.
Just most
most
of the
of
good
them,
ideas.
Most of them.
Well, you can't have all of them, but I have most.
Oh, man. There, of course, a lot of other stories in wrestling, too. We've only got a couple minutes, but before we go to the break, I had a couple little tiny ones, but I got to hit this one up real fast. Remember we talked about Toni Storm?
Yep.
And how awesome it would be if Toni Storm had an OnlyFans?
Yep.
Guess what?
She has an OnlyFans?
Toni Storm now has an OnlyFans account. And apparently a ton of people signed up for it in the first hour.
Have they been disappointed is what I want to know.
Well, I'm guessing not
she
so
wasn't
much.
Disappointed. I heard she made $10,000, it said.
This was actually on Web as Jericho pulled this story off. I'm not going to say what the name is.
What's the name?
Nope.
It's on Web as Jericho, you say?
It's on Web as Jericho.
I'm going right now. Hold on.
First hour, she made over $10,000. Her subscription is $19.99 a month. But it's interesting that she did that. Certainly a moneymaker. And, Scarlett does that as well. Are we going to see more female wrestlers doing that? And I think Jordan Grace also has a
not if they're
OnlyFans
if they're WWE.
Obviously not if they're WWE. But is this going to be a trend that the ladies are going to be doing OnlyFans now?
Well, I guess Scarlett has one too.
Yeah, that's what I said. She does. I mean, obviously the income potential is pretty good. So, is that a good idea? I mean, Joe, do you have a problem with that?
Not at all. But, their content is far tamer than a lot of people's, and if they can make money, especially in the wrestling business, boy, guys are suckers for that.
Fish, what are your thoughts on wrestlers having an OnlyFans account?
I have absolutely no issue with it. I don't see, as long as they're not doing anything to denigrate the name of the company, I don't see why even WWE has an issue with it. But they do, and, that's the company policy, so whatever. But I don't see an issue with it. I think, especially if they're independent contractors, they should be able to do whatever the hell they want.
Well,
I do have one issue. The one issue is that they come out and they'll go on OnlyFans and they'll put together, photo shoots and scantily clad stuff. But then in some cases, they get very when people make comments about them in their bikinis or whatever. It's like you can't have it both ways.
Well, they can't do it in WWE because they are sports entertainers. And we're going to talk about that when we come back here on the Mark Hoke Show. So stick around, everybody. Second half hour coming up. We'll be back here on KDWN. Stick around.
1015 FM, 720 AM. KDWN, the talk of Las Vegas.
Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, like us on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and visit markhokeshow.com to keep up with everything happening with the show. And remember to check out all of our archive shows on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show and download our podcasts at markhokeshow.podbean.com and all your favorite podcast outlets. So join The Mark Hoke Show family today, and thanks for listening.
This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. Here again, your host, Mark Hoke.
Ho, ho, ho. Who wouldn't hoke? Ho, ho, ho. Fish, don't give me that look. I heard you on SportsX Radio the last 2 weeks. You have lost your mind, so I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Look at you.
I have not lost my mind.
No, you have. You have gone punny. Just in case anybody had not been listening, Fish has gone insane. So this should be, and considering how the NCAA tournament went, this should be a really interesting episode tomorrow night for Fish. So I'd suggest you tune in. Hey, let's go to WWE before we hit the Chris Jericho stuff, because Fish doesn't even want to talk about it. We had a little Owens and Seth Rollins battle.
It's freaking speaking with Seth Rollins, with Seth Rollins,
where the two dueled to host a talk show at WrestleMania. Yay! Which Kevin Owens won, so he will continue to get to chat with Steve Austin on the KO show. And supposedly Seth Rollins, womp womp, still no path to WrestleMania.
But
He has no
apparently
match.
the clue to his path was Corey Graves saying that he had shattered dreams of going to WrestleMania.
There's no roads to...
Yes, that's what he said.
Shattered dreams. Dustin Rhodes is coming in?
Exactly.
Awesome.
So obviously we know what's going on, because the news finally has somewhat been made official anyway. They got confirmation that Cody Rhodes, of course, formerly of AEW, one of the founders of the company, is headed back to WWE, and apparently he will be taking on Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. Maybe. Supposedly. There's talk that they may hold him back until after WrestleMania.
So the Raw after WrestleMania?
That is...
Because he's going to be a Raw superstar, apparently.
Yeah, they are saying he's going to be on Raw. Guys, I'm just curious, though. What's the move? What is the move with Cody? Is he... You know, we know WWE loves to get the viral moment and get that big attention-getting video up on YouTube. So obviously Cody Rhodes showing up at WrestleMania as the quote-unquote surprise opponent for Seth Rollins. Huge pop. But guys, is it the right move long-term? Or should they hold him off till after WrestleMania? Fish, I know you want to...
I honestly... I think they were going to do, depending on how the sales of tickets go, I think it will depend. If they think that they're lagging behind and they need a boost, I think you'll see Cody come on even before WrestleMania to get the match going. If they think that they're doing okay, I think they may hold him till afterwards.
Well, but Joe, I'll say this to you. You know, you run a promotion, and let's say you want to sell tickets, and you know, is Cody Rhodes showing up on, say, the Raw before WrestleMania? Would that be enough to get more ticket sales, or are you pretty much stuck where you are, Cody Rhodes or not?
When we do our bigger shows, we always talk about who we're going to bring in, and then there's at point where, hey, you know, should we make this a surprise? It makes it a big deal. The fans are like, oh, I can't believe I missed the show. But it's a different situation. You're talking about WrestleMania. You're talking about Steve Austin coming back. And as I like to say, it's like, you know, there's certain guys that, as good as they are, they're not big-name draws. And that's when you kind of use them as a surprise because, you know, they're going to give you a good match, but they're not going to really sell tickets. At WrestleMania, if there's somebody on the fence about whether they're going to go or order the pay-per-view, it's hard for me to believe that people are going to be like, oh, Reigns and Lesnar. Oh, my God, Steve Austin's coming back. Yeah, I'm just not sure. Oh, wait, Cody Rhodes is wrestling Seth Rollins? Oh, I got to buy this. I just don't perceive that as most people caring.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, I don't either, to be honest with you. I mean, it's obviously a feather in the cap for them to get Cody in there, and I'm sure they're going to have their fun with it and probably ruin the storyline.
They have so much talent. With Cody Rhodes, he started a new thing, and it was the Ring of Honor, and he left for one reason, because he lost his juice. I had heard months back that Cody Rhodes kind of lost his spot, as Tony Khan's right-hand man, and that's where QT Marshall kind of stepped in, who initially was Cody Rhodes' right-hand man, and somehow QT jumped over him. And, you even seen some of the remarks Omega said and stuff, that they had different visions of what they did. And initially it shocked me. It's like when I think of CM Punk going back to WWE, I'm thinking it's never going to happen. And Cody Rhodes was the guy like, doing the Dusty Classic and copywriting the name. Like, they were the Antichrist to Cody Rhodes. Mm-hmm. And now he's going back. So when we've talked in the past about people doing things for money, this is the obvious point to where in AEW, maybe his tail's tucked between his legs and he'd still make good money being there, but he went from being a top guy in the promotion and being the boss, basically a lot of their bosses. So at least now he goes into WWE, he's getting his guaranteed money. Thank you very much, Scott Hall. And he can go in there, and it's no different. Funny enough, I'm having a discussion with a 13-year-old at the kids class yesterday, and he was all over Cody Rhodes and stuff like that. And I'm like, you just got to remember it's Vince McMahon. If Vince McMahon signs Cody Rhodes and Cody Rhodes becomes the world champion, in Vince McMahon's mind, it's like he's just shown the WWE fans that AEW is better than WWE because the AEW guy just beat everybody. I don't perceive that happening.
Yeah, and I remember I had talked to you, Fish, about this a while back, about a possible storyline with Cody coming in, and you start this whole thing involving, if Cody wins the WWE title and the McMahons go crazy because, of course, Dusty has been trying to beat Vince for God knows how long before he died, until he became part of the company at the end with, really with NXT. But, you think about it, he humiliated Dusty when he came back. The polka dot thing.
And Virgil.
Every shot he could. He humiliated Dustin, who just took Goldust, but I don't think many of us may have forgotten the match with Piper at WrestleMania where he was in lingerie at the end of the match. That wasn't a real good moment for Dustin, I would say.
He plays an androgynous character.
But still, I hate it. I'm just going to say I hated that.
And turning Cody into Stardust.
Cody gets turned into Stardust and gets buried.
That was the most over Cody ever was in WWE, was teaming with his brother.
That to a point.
Well, I thought with Legacy, when he was with Randy Orton and Ted DiBiase Jr. was when he was the most over.
I look at him; he was second fiddle. He was doing jobs in handicap matches against John Cena. Like Randy Orton was the guy who got the rub in that. And again, we can look at it two ways. I look at it as they try to make Cody Rhodes the narcissist, and that didn't work. And the Legacy thing with DiBiase. Well, that was when the tag team belts meant absolutely nothing. And, the Stardust thing got universal praise. But look back with all these great returns of WWE legends of the past, and you're talking the Dudleys and the Hardys and things like that. Once that initial shock hit, Matt Hardy was low mid-card at best, and that's why he kind of left. I can't believe they're going to bring in Cody Rhodes, and I think he's going to run the same route as those guys, that guys like that who were the past of WWE are going to be putting over the present and the future of it.
Yeah, the only guy that hasn't happened to, and it's a guy who didn't really leave WWE, at least not of his own accord, was Edge, because Edge is still on that higher level again, at least as far as people in the company. But he never left the company. He just stopped working for them.
Right. But look at Christian when he finally came back.
Absolutely.
So the track record shows that when you bring these guys back, that they're placed in a spot to put over, the newer guys that they're trying to perceive as stars.
Yeah,
Kurt Angle lost to Corbin, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
That was the retirement match.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see. There's a lot of people were saying that this kind of got held up because Cody, the contract was, they couldn't come to an agreement for a while, and I think it's going to be fascinating to see the creative direction that they're taking and what Cody was willing to agree to, because I think there's a lot of us in the back, fans, and in the back of our minds, we're thinking Vince is going to find a way to absolutely bury and humiliate Cody Rhodes. So I don't know.
That's personal joy in Vince's life.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Isn't that, doesn't he take these guys back, pay them whatever he wants to pay them or whatever they want money-wise if they're doing it for their money reasons, and then buries them on purpose because it gives him such joy. It gives him joy to watch Kurt Angle lose to Baron Corbin. It gives him joy for Matt Hardy to become just a mid-card guy. Even Jeff Hardy, who they thought they were going to put back at the top of the card, never really got back up there.
Well, it's funny because, like I said, we had Matt Hardy 2 weeks before he was coming back for WrestleMania, and that was the one question I asked him, like, well, why is it going to be any different than the Dudleys? They kind of got put in a good position, and that was it. Oh, no, that's definitely not going to happen with us. We're going to have, a say in what we're doing, blah, 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 blah. And then they won the titles, and then 3 months later they were just working regular tag teams and losing in most cases. Vince loves that. Like, he doesn't, he's still going to make his money, so he doesn't care that he's paying a guy $300,000, $500,000, $800,000. And most people would be like, "Hey, we got to, we're paying this guy a lot of money. We really need to, do something." Like, that's part of like the rich guy playing with the toys. That movie with Richard Pryor.
Yeah, the toy. Yeah,
and that's all these guys are. It's a new toy, and the new toy is great for 3 months, 6 months, and then in most cases, that new toy becomes the old toy.
There you go. It's gonna be fascinating.
It really is, because I think Cody Rhodes. I think Joe's absolutely right. I think Cody Rhodes gets an initial bump, and it's going to look like he's on the rise, and then by SummerSlam, I think he's dropping right back down again.
Cody Rhodes just recently has cost Vince McMahon money in lawyers' fees for all the trademark lawsuits and everything else too. Never underestimate the vindictiveness of Mr. McMahon.
Right, and it's like, in all honesty, Cody Rhodes has, in his mind, like, he has a right to be upset about these things, and in some cases I agree with him. I'll be honest, he's not one of my favorite wrestlers out there. Like, to me, it's not that big a deal. Like, I don't think that he's going to move a needle at all. But by doing what he did, puts a target on his back, and it's like, I could just see the backdoor meetings with them goofing on what they're going to do with Cody in 6 months.
Well, and that's why I think that if you you could take the legacy and the hatred between the Rhodes family and the McMahons and turn that into something so huge and so special, just because of all the lives that Dusty has touched. And saying, hey, Cody wins. If Cody wins the title, and he's like, I swore that a Rhodes would never wear my world championship belt, and I'm going to get my revenge. And then all of a sudden, you have people picking sides between the Vince McMahon legacy and the Dusty Rhodes legacy. And now you're going to tie 40 years of wrestling history together, and you can bring in anybody that has had any contact with Dusty Rhodes, anyone.
Yeah,
but could say good or bad.
Going to care.
But but you also have people that were trained by him in NXT. Seth Rollins, Bayley, Charlotte. I mean, imagine Cody going to Charlotte Flair and the conflicted attitude that Charlotte could have. She could stand there with Cody and slap him in the face, say, your dad took my dad away from me, booked him and left him on the road, and I never got to see my dad, and look at the life he led, and look what it did to my family. Screw you, Cody Rhodes. And they end up in a mixed tag match. I mean, there's all sorts of potential.
I think that's an inner story that the majority of fans these days will go right over their head.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that story would work perfectly if it was done for AEW, not for WWE, because WWE is trying to bring it to a much wider audience. And I think you're absolutely right. The story I see, I love that storyline, but that's because I'm a wrestling fan. I know the history. I understand the history. The general public doesn't care.
I think there would be some major possibilities if you took that route. So.
Just look back when Goldust and Stardust were breaking up and those guys were pitching for the brothers match, that Vince could care less, and they never got the match.
Well, I'm not Vince McMahon.
You certainly aren't.
No, I'm not. He's much richer and much more handsome. But you
still have no chance in hell.
No. There's still time. But anyway. So, that's obviously a very interesting happening going on in WWE. Hey, Brock Lesnar's getting a little crazy too.
Yeah, but it was interesting. The bout is now a unification bout. It's not going to be one guy holding two belts.
That's what we're hearing. We'll see if that holds
crazy.
up.
They're going to have a unification belt, and then a month later they're going to have a tournament to give up the other belt, probably.
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll get forgotten. But Brock Lesnar's breaking stuff.
He tore a door off.
Drove a forklift into a truck that the Usos were driving, and then ripped the door off too.
I heard they did it for The Rock.
I do this for The Rock.
Oh my God! But did that help the lead up? I mean, Charlotte, of course, was banging around on Ronda Rousey too.
It wasn't on the Usos truck, though.
No, not on the Usos truck. They already took a shot on the
Buick.
On the Buick, which we still have not identified what kind of Buick that was from last week.
It was Tiger Woods' Buick.
Fish.
I'll tell you what, I don't know, maybe I'm getting old, but these feuds are doing absolutely nothing for me.
I was curious to hear what you thought.
I don't care about Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey, and I don't, no matter what they do, Reigns and Lesnar's a really good match, but we've seen it 100 times. There's nothing special.
No, the only match I really care about is the one that I can't figure out where they want to go with it, and that's Edge and AJ Styles.
Well, being that Edge loses every high-profile feud he has, why would it be difficult to figure it out?
Touché.
They brought him back to be, that's why Christian needed to stay, because when it was Edge and Christian was the jobber. Now there's Edge and Christian, it's just Edge, so now Edge is just the jobber.
Well, Orton did the job for him.
Yeah, but Edge is on the mountaintop, yes. and the view is phenomenal.
And Beth Phoenix doesn't know him anymore.
They can make a big storyline and make Edge the champ and have to be around, and supposedly he wants to be around, but there must be something holding that up, because it seems like he is in very high regard there. But any of his high-profile stuff, if you're going to start pushing AJ Styles again and set him up for a run, you would think that he would go over. But they had AJ Styles job out to Omos and then gave him the push toward, reclaiming the gold. So it doesn't matter. We know in WWE, you can lose today and be the champion next week and get a title match.
Speaking of Omos, I think he looks ridiculous in the ring, but the suplex he did on Commander Aziz this past Monday on Raw was absolutely incredible, because Aziz had started to pick Omos up and almost ended up picking up Aziz and held him all the way up and threw him down. It was actually a pretty amazing spot.
Yeah, if he keeps going, Omos can for sure be the next Giant Gonzalez, without a doubt.
I was going more for Great Khali, but okay.
Did Khali ever do a suplex?
Yeah, Rey Mysterio a few times.
Yeah. and he did the Kissplex with Beth Phoenix.
Oh,
yeah, and I heard that Rey Mysterio didn't get light for Khali, so there was some heat backstage.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why Dominic's going to turn on Rey.
Dominic is
for that. It's going to happen any minute.
Dominic has said he has no interest in wrestling his dad. He said that again this week. Fish, let it go.
That's going to happen. It'll happen before Ava Marie returns.
I think from now on, every time you say it, we'll put a jar over here, right? And until Rey Mysterio retires, every time you say it, you got to put $1 in the jar. If it happens, you get the money. If not, we get the money.
But it's only it's my money only. So no, I'm not going to put money in a jar that I can win back.
But this is your thing. If for those that don't,
it's like a 401k. I know you don't have one doing radio, so you know.
Joe, should we match?
There's more of a chance of that happening than Eva Marie returning.
Should we match it?
I highly don't believe that. She could come back at any given time. I'm telling you.
It's like a swear jar on the Mark Hoke Show. Fish talking about Ray's son turning on him, and Joe talking about Eva Marie coming back. It is. It's a swear jar.
It's gotta happen.
That's it. I'm doing it. Every time you guys do it, I am going to put a notch down, and for 1 year, I am taking all that money.
He's going to invest it, and he's going to turn that $500 to $502.
That's right. That's right.
So it's a 502K.
Of course, I'll probably end up having to use it to pay for FSW tickets.
Probably.
Speaking of which, we got a few minutes left before we get into our exciting bonus half hour. I know Fish has to take off soon.
Bonus.
I thought he didn't have to leave. I thought if it was an hour he had to leave, that his wife needed him to go grocery shopping.
No, it's actually real work that calls.
Yes, you can. Can we say where you work?
I don't care if you say it.
If you would like to meet Fish, he will be at the Cheesecake Factory on Rampart
at Boca Park.
So you
best
may
cheesecake ever. That place, man, it's unbelievable.
That is where I work, Joe.
Yeah. So
does it really? Do you give me discounts, man?
You show up, I can get you whatever you want.
Which one you work at?
Wait a minute. I never got a discount.
The one in Boca Park.
I've come in to see you how many times, and I never got
twice, maybe 3 times.
It's been like
Green
4 or 5,
Valley is
buddy.
The one I live near. If I mention your name, do I get a discount at Green Valley?
If you mention my name at Green Valley, they throw you out.
Wow. Anyway, Joe, tell us what we have about 2 minutes, I think, left. So if you want to tell everybody what you have going on with FSW.
Well, yeah. AEW weekend, we just finalized the deal with GCW. So we're going to be doing an all-day event on that Saturday. This guy, Ed, we know, he works for the Wrestling Observer. He's put together something where Dave Meltzer is going to be doing a Q&A at 11 a.m. Ed's going to run his women's show at noon. We're going to do our show at 4 o'clock, and GCW is running this show at 8 o'clock Saturday night, which is May 28th. So that's, set in stone. Everything, contracts are signed, so they can't bump us for some other promoter. So that's going to be at the Silver Nugget on the Saturday before the AEW pay-per-view. We're also talking with Sami Callihan and Revolver, and they may come out and do that. And I'm supposed to have a call with your boy Booker T about bringing the reality of wrestling to Vegas that weekend. So we're looking at possibly doing stuff Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to go along with AEW. So it's going to be a pretty big weekend, meet and greets, trying to do vendor tables. So we're looking to make it like this whole big, could be the biggest wrestling weekend in Vegas history.
That sounds absolutely awesome. Now, would you do it so you could buy a package that you could buy one ticket that covers all 4 days and you could...
Yeah, we're definitely in the process of that. We got to figure out splits and all that other stuff.
Obviously, Joe gets 80% and everyone else can split the last 20%.
Exactly. You know what I mean? It's like the Ed guy, the women's show, it's not going to draw big compared to, say, GCW. That could draw 800 to 1,000 people. You know what I mean? So, everybody's going to sell tickets on their own.
Obviously, yeah.
We might, and then of course have a separate ticket package, like you said, to include everything to where, you save some money. You save 20% by, buying tickets, because the one thing about the wrestling fans, especially when they come in. We did well SummerSlam weekend, and that was the WWE fans. The thing about AEW weekend is our shows are catering to that fan base. So I think it should be a lot bigger for us on the indie level because of the AEW fans. were basically Ring of Honor fans, and that whole super indie show. And, you know, we're talking about guys like Swan and Strickland and Davey Richards, and even the Briscoes coming in. So
should be a lot of fun.
Awesome.
That whole weekend. So everybody check that out at fswvegas.com. We're back for another half hour here on KDWN for the Mark Hoke Show. Thanks for joining us. Hey, markhokeshow.com, markhokeshow.podbean.com for those podcasts and social media. That'll be coming up too.
Hoke is Jericho.
Yeah, so stick around. We're going to be talking about Chris Jericho and sports entertainment and all sorts of fun stuff. So stick around. We'll be right back. Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, like us on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and visit markhokeshow.com to keep up with everything happening with the show. And remember to check out all of our archive shows on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show and download our podcasts at markhokeshow.podbean.com and all your favorite podcast outlets. So join The Mark Hoke Show family today, and thanks for listening.
1015 FM, 720 AM. KDWN, the talk of Las Vegas.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the #1 professional wrestling radio show in Las Vegas. This is the Mark Hoke Show. The Mark Hoke Show. 1 full hour of wrestling news, entertainment, and lots of Sin City surprises from inside the squared circle. Now, let's bring on the tag team of Andrew Fish Fain, Joe DeFalco, and your host, Mark Hoke.
Bonus! 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 Yeah! More Mark Hoke Show! Holy cow! Joe DeFalco was almost ready for it. Thanks for being with us here on KDWN, 1015 FM, 720 AM. There's again, extra half hour of showtime for you, the best in pro wrestling news and entertainment, bar none. Fish has left the building. Andrew Fish Fain out of here. But Joe DeFalco of future Stars of Wrestling still here. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. What's up, buddy?
Still here.
Yeah.
Can't go back to sleep yet.
Yeah, soon. Soon, my friend.
Soon.
We didn't talk about AEW in the last hour of the show. So let's get into that because there's some underlying issues I thought that I wanted to hit you up with. But first, we did have a title change this week in AEW as Thunder Rosa is your new AEW Women's Champion, defeating Britt Baker in her adopted hometown of San Antonio in a steel cage match. Of course, designed to keep Jamie Hayter and Rebel out of the ring after repeated interference in matches. Thunder Rosa, the new Women's Champion. Joe, not just on the match itself, but in terms of the lead up to this. What'd you think?
Well, I think it had to be done. I think it was time for the change. A lot of people were surprised it didn't happen at the show before. But, you know, I think they wanted it to happen. You know, when you book title changes, you need to do them at a specific time. You know, you want that to be the main focus of the show. Like, we have our show coming up next Sunday, and we got 2 title matches. And if we're going to do a title change, you don't want to do 2. If you do 2 title changes, it takes away from the other one. And the idea is, you know, there was so much going on at the pay-per-view, whatever. You know, now they do it on TV. It's a big moment. It was deserving, you know. She had the big run early with the NWA stuff, and you know, now it was time. You know, Britt Baker's beaten pretty much everybody along the way. There's only so much you can do as a champion, you know, and now it's a fresh start. It's the new beginning. And Thunder Rosa, as I saw, you know, by the commitment that she makes there. She was also one of the bigger independent companies, Warrior in Chicago, that she announced that she has to vacate the title just because of her commitments to AEW, which is disappointing when you see that because you always want that transition of the champion putting over the next person. But, good for her. Bad for me. Now that means her rate goes up even more if I want to book her.
Sorry, Joe. But, one thing that really impressed me about how they led into this match, and I'm wondering how long they had this planned, because, of course, a lot of people thought, well, they're going to change it at the pay-per-view. But, more interference in the match. Everybody was ticked off. So they'd set it up to go to steel cage, to keep everybody out. But there was a lot of interference in Britt Baker's matches for quite a while. So I'm curious if the whole plan for months here was, we're going to constantly have somebody sticking their nose in her matches, constantly having her friends save her, and everybody is just going to keep seeing this, and then we're going to see it happen at the pay-per-view to Thunder Rosa. So now we're going to throw them in a steel cage and have that thing build to a climax. I really, just AEW does these little things as they go along that just makes sense. And I think that was part of it, and I think they've had it on their minds for a while. So,
it's possible. I saw early on, I guess there was some beef going on with Britt and Thunder Rosa's husband, because they run a small company, I believe, out of Texas and things like that. But it could be, or it can't be, And in wrestling, sometimes you see things and you want to say, okay, well, that's what's going to lead to the next thing. And it's kind of even, just looking around. Oh, Cody Rhodes, he's really still with AEW. It's all a work. And it's like, so WWE is mentioning Cody Rhodes in roundabout ways, yet he's still not signed with them. And it's like, people want to believe, and that's part of being, where you're so interested in that storyline, you're so interested in what's going on, and they made the women's title, mean something. It's a lot different, the women's stuff in AEW compared to WWE. The women in WWE, if you put you take a piece of paper and you write down all the people, they are far more talented. Like, the one thing about AEW when Brandy Rose was kind of running that was, I think she, was protective of herself, and there was a lot of not very good wrestling going on there. And, they found some diamonds in the rough, and, hopefully they can build upon it, because now Thunder Rosa has an opportunity to go in there. What are they going to do with Jade? Is she going to go after Thunder Rosa? Is she going to be happy with the secondary belt that they have? So, there's definitely things they could build around.
Yeah, it might almost be better for Britt Baker to lose the women's title and now chase what may almost seem like a bigger challenge in beating Jade Cargill. So there's some good possibilities on that. We'll see where that goes. Of course, also on Dynamite, Rampage was kind of a throwaway this week. It was it was an okay show, but a little disappointing. But we had Wardlow losing in his challenge to Scorpio Sky for the TNT title. Is just pretty much everybody beat the hell out of Wardlow, of course, including MJF. So we're going to get that MJF Wardlow feud coming up here pretty soon. But one thing I'll say about that real quick, I'm kind of happy that they didn't take the belt off Scorpio Sky right away. That almost seemed like that could have been a transition champion to Wardlow. But, I'm kind of happy Scorpio might get a run with this belt. What do you think of that?
Yeah, again, Scorpio Sky is a guy we've had a few times, awesome talent. And it just seemed like, wow, what are you guys doing with him for the last couple of years? And the answer is pretty much nothing. And, again, everybody's going to look into everything and basically pick it apart. The comments were made about the diversity of AEW, and then now all of a sudden they put the belt on Scorpio Sky. Is that the reason why? Who knows? It was the same issue back in the day with WWE, and then all of a sudden Mark Henry became the champion. You know what? It's still up to that person, and to me, Mark Henry wasn't a world champion type of guy, and when they did put the belt on him, he stepped up and became that. Scorpio Sky has been languishing for a long time, and you're definitely going to get good matches out of him. he can talk on the microphone, that SoCal Uncensored kind of imploded, just because of age and wear and tear with Daniels and Kazarian, that it kind of left Scorpio Sky, out of it. And then I guess he teamed up with Page, Ethan Page.
Yep.
Ethan
and
Page.
the America's Top Team gang and all that. So
yeah, and I know Sky in the past had done some MMA stuff and things like that, but that's, he's a pro wrestler. And, finally giving him the shot, and they gave Wardlow, who was getting, a real big push, and he's this monster guy, they gave it the out of, the interference is why he lost, and they can revisit that if they want. I'm just disappointed. Like, they kind of like all of a sudden did the thing with Punk and it got over huge, but it was like they're rushing right into MJF and Wardlow. Like, I thought at that point MJF could be doing other things, but again, that's the direction they want to go with. Like, just like with me and you and everybody who watches, we're all armchair bookers and have our ideas of what they should do. And, I think they should hire me and pay me a lot of money because I'll have a better idea than them, but it's not the way it works.
Well, I'm sorry, Joe, but I think they should too. But the one thing that stood out to me in AEW this week, besides Thunder Rosa winning the title, was the new Chris Jericho group, and not so much as to who is in it, because I'm happy for Daniel Garcia and the now former 2.0, which is now they changed their names. They are now Matt Menard and Angelo Parker, and they got some cute little nicknames. But the Chris Jericho comes out, the hair's smoothed out, he's tanned up. Of course, he had lost some weight, so he's looking
phenomenal.
He's looking terrific. Comes out with a purple jacket and the purple shoes, and starts going off on everybody, and then says, "I am not a pro wrestler. Everybody else in the back is a pro wrestler. I am a sports entertainer, and these are sports entertainers," which of course is what Vince calls his people. And the crowd went crazy. I mean, that was one of the loudest boos I've heard on an AEW show. They destroyed him. And I'm just thinking about all the possibilities of these five saying that they're sports entertainers, that the little slights that can come in here, the slams, the nonsense that's going to take place with this group, I think is going to be exciting. But I think it also brings to light the discussion of, do we have pro wrestling or do we have sports entertainment? Do we like the WWE style of doing it, or do we like the AEW style of doing it? Because now that's going to be brought into focus with all this even more. I mean, what are your thoughts on what Jericho's doing first, and reinventing himself, and then your thoughts on the sports entertainment versus the pro wrestling angle?
Jericho says things to rile people up, and Jericho is one of the best on the microphone. So he's going to say things that's going to get people to have an opinion. While there's a lot of people who get on the microphone and what they say is forgotten, 30 seconds later, let alone 10 minutes later or the next week. So, the AEW fans are extremely passionate. WWE fans, they're only passionate about WWE. And by him doing that, first off, who's that big tall guy in the group that looks like Jack Swagger from the WWE? He looks familiar, this guy. I don't know who he is.
Still Jake Hager. You know that.
I forgot he's even with the company anymore. Like, big deal. What is he doing, by the way?
He's the muscle guy.
Okay, well, he was a guy that was a heavyweight champion in WWE, and it's just like he just seems to be the bag carrier for Jericho. Again, I know there's a lot of guys don't really understand it, but Jericho, sports entertainment. Is it sports entertainment at WrestleMania when we watch Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, or is it a wrestling match? Well, it's a wrestling match. They're selling the sports entertainment aspect of it, and that's the stuff we're seeing to the lead in. But matches are matches, and WrestleMania is going to be considered good or bad based on the quality of the matches that happen that day. So it's just another cute term, just like what Vince McMahon says, WWE superstar, then professional wrestler. Well, yeah, you should differentiate it, because when you go on Facebook, there's guys that have had 2 matches and they work at Target during the week, and they don't get paid to wrestle, and they want to call themselves professional wrestlers. So you kind of need to distance that. Everybody in the world wants to say they're a pro wrestler, and, I'm seeing guys locally and think, oh, announcing my retirement. Retirement from what? What are you retiring from? The 6 matches you had in your career?
Yeah, and I think, some of the comments that you hear, I mean, one thing that Bryan Danielson said a couple weeks ago in an interview, that it felt like that to him when he was in WWE, that they almost wanted to be doing something other than wrestling. That they almost like they wish they were a movie company, than rather than being a wrestling company, and they don't focus on that. And I think that you see that in AEW, that they've been putting a lot more effort into building up these matches so that you care about them. And for us that they're going to be watching WrestleMania, Fish and I talked about it last week and went through the card and said, what do we care about on this card? And the answer was not much, because they haven't put any. You have the Reigns Lesnar build, but most of these other matches, there's been little or no build, and for even some that have had some build, like Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn, who cares? For us anyway.
Who cares? There's people that do. There's fans. Jackass has a lot of fans. Sami Zayn. Would you rather have him wrestle Johnny Knoxville or have a match with Nakamura? Well, the pure wrestling fan would probably rather watch the match with Nakamura, but the spectacle of it has been done in the past, and it's helped WWE succeed. When Lawrence Taylor is wrestling on a show, and when WCW would have Karl Malone on a show, and Dennis Rodman on a show. The celebrity thing has always been important in the business. It's no different than when AEW brings in Shaquille O'Neal. It's like everybody's going to do that. It's always about entertainment. You could say AEW. Well, go look at the card on the AEW pay-per-view. I'm pretty sure most people didn't care about half that card either. And, you want to talk about entertainment. Well, the most entertaining thing about, as everybody talked about with CM Punk and MJF, was their promo. That was the entertainment. Like, everybody was looking forward to the match, but everybody also knew that the verbal battle between them was really the main event, while the matches were the dessert.
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying. So it's always going to be a debate at this point when you have two companies that have very different philosophies about how they want to present the wrestling product, and obviously Chris Jericho is jumping on that right now. I think this is going to be a lot of fun to see what they do. I really do. It's going to be something else.
And as older as Chris Jericho is, and in the twilight of his career, the 2.0 guys and stuff like that, they're getting a rub just being looked at in the ring with Chris Jericho.
And I'm happy for those two, by the way.
Jericho is the universal superstar.
Those guys have been really killing themselves for a long time, and they've improved a lot. They were Everrise in NXT and have been doing some pretty solid work in AEW, and now they're going to get a chance to shine and see what they can do. So,
well, right, it's going to give them the opportunity. But it was like the same thing when Matt Hardy and Private Party got together, and it helped Private Party a lot. But there's still way more teams that are above them. So, there's still a lot of time. The idea is you have to build the younger guys. And it's like, they did a great job with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. I looked at that team as kind of goofy. I was never the biggest fan of Luchasaurus, but he's gotten over the gimmick. It's like, in 2022, I'm pretty sure most people never thought that a guy dressed with a dinosaur mask was going to get over in 2022 in a company like AEW that prides itself on mainly a lot of high-flying wrestling and technical stuff. Mm-hmm. He's neither.
Yeah, he's just good. He's fun to watch.
But, everybody's got to find a niche. It's funny. It's like when you look at NXT, it's weird. I'm looking and it's like everybody's got their specific colors and their specific gear. And it's really turned into like all wrestling is like American Idol now. It's like you're voting for your favorite person. And everybody has their own distinct personality and look. And, the strong survive.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the strong surviving, and this may seem like a deviation, but just follow me on this one for a minute. The Penn State Nittany Lions this week won the NCAA National Championship, had 5 national champions, and, of course, I'm from the area and wrestled, so I kind of have a little admiration for Penn State as they continue their dominance. A great run for them. And I got to mention from NDSU, my college, Jared Franek, won the Elite 90 award for the top academic competitor at the NCAA Championships. Got 4.0. So congratulations to Jared for winning that. But there was one guy that won a national championship this weekend. Gable Steveson from the University of Minnesota, who has already signed his WWE contract. And he stole the show. He was out. He actually did a leapfrog in one of his matches to get a takedown in one of the, I think it was in the quarter, either the quarter or the first round. He did the thing where he left his shoes on the mat, saying he was retiring from the amateur business. And of course, he won an Olympic gold medal, 2-time national champ. How excited are you about Gable Steveson? Of course, his brother's already in NXT, but that dude just seems to get it at this point. He is a great interview. He's charismatic, an incredible athlete. I think we've got something really special coming in WWE here pretty soon when he's ready to go.
Yeah, but it's going to take a while. Back in the day, Lesnar came in and he worked a bunch of dark matches. I remember going to the Thomas and Mack and seeing Brock Lesnar, and I didn't see anything that special about him, but the pure athleticism and the ability is definitely there. Being able to talk is definitely going to be a major plus, but they may have something and he may be a huge star, but in reality, I don't see that happening for a couple years, 18 months minimum, because you got to go through that whole system and it's a totally different thing. And, in my opinion, like for me, he's not even on the radar until he starts doing something. It's kind of like Braun Breaker. Like we figured out, when we finally see him on the roster, but it seems like he's now on the roster.
Did you know that they actually set up a training facility for him near the college so he could be working out with WWE?
Hey, you know what? They had centers all over the world. So if this is going to be the guy that they're counting on into, the next decade, sure. So what happens when you have tons of money. Do whatever you want.
You betcha. Well, hey, we're getting ready to wrap things up here. Just want to remind everybody, if you would, please, of course, first, check out fswvegas.com. Joe's got all sorts of great shows coming up, and that Memorial Day weekend when AEW is going to be in town is going to be fantastic. You need to go to some of Joe's shows as well. It is going to be a lot of fun. So go to fswvegas.com if you want to be a pro wrestler. They teach you, too. They do a terrific job, so head on down there and check out his website. And as for us, once again, doing very well. We appreciate everybody from all around the world who's been listening to the show and downloading it. It is absolutely phenomenal. Make sure you go to follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, Facebook, The Mark Hoke Show. MarkHokeShow.podbean.com is our main podcast outlet. But, of course, you can go on your favorite outlets and pick it up. And, of course, MarkHokeShow.com. I want to thank Jared. He's got one more show with us. And we got Lourdes who's in there learning.
Where's he going?
He's headed out of town. So, But thank you so much for listening to us on KDWN 101.5 FM, 720 AM, The Talk of Las Vegas. We'll see you next week on the Mark Hoke Show. Have a terrific Sunday, everybody. Good morning. Want more of The Mark Hoke Show? Follow us on Twitter at Mark Hoke Show, like us on Facebook at The Mark Hoke Show, and visit markhokeshow.com to keep up with everything happening with the show. And remember to check out all of our archive shows on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show and download our podcasts at markhokeshow.podbean.com and all your favorite podcast outlets. So join The Mark Hoke Show family today, and thanks for listening.